a little over 5 months since a major hurricane made landfall in the Bahamas, and it could be another 5 months before electricity is completely restored to some places. That's our first subject of the week here on CNN 10. My name is Carl Azus. I'm at the CNN Center. The year 1851 was the first year when officials started keeping track of hurricanes. And since then, at least, no storm that's hit the Bahamas was as strong as Hurricane Dorian. It made landfall there on September 1st as a Category 5 hurricane, the strongest classification of storm. It weakened to Category 4 strength as it passed over the islands, but one thing that made Dorian so destructive was its speed. Hurricanes are damaging enough when they pass over land in a couple of hours, but Dorian came to a near stop when it was over the Bahamas, blasting part of the chain for more than 36 hours with unrelenting wind, waves, and rain. So many homes were destroyed that even now, there aren't enough people living in the Bahamas to rebuild quickly. In the town of Marsh Harbor, in the Abaco Islands, witnesses say it doesn't look like anything's been done to repair some hard-hit areas and that stray dogs are the only signs of life. For some people who evacuated or had to leave after their homes were destroyed, they couldn't go back if they wanted to. There's nowhere for them to stay. The Bahamian government is working to set up domes, temporary houses to address that. And for those who are trying to rebuild, there's a sense of urgency because June 1st, less than 4 months from now, is the official start of the next hurricane season. Volunteers have committed to helping the Bahamas rebuild and prepare.
We know that the water line came up higher, so we know for a fact that there's going to be mold behind these tiles, so they had to come off.
We're here in Marsh Harbor on the island of Great Abaco. It really was the epicenter of Hurricane Dorian and experienced the most extreme damage from the storm. All Hands and Hearts has made a commitment to be here for at least 2 years to help the community recover.
We're so thankful and so grateful, and we're so appreciative of the help that you guys are giving us, and the sacrifice that you guys are making is much needed.
We are going to continue working in the response phase, doing mucking and gutting and debris removal, and sanitizing homes, and begin to accelerate more of the recovery and rebuild work that we do.
There we go. Nice.
Beautiful.
The goal really is to get people back into homes and get students back into schools. The need here is for manpower. We need volunteers. We're going to need thousands of volunteers over the course of the coming years.
We're going to have you guys added into a team for tomorrow.
These people need a lot, and I have the time to give it, so it's an incredible gift that we give and we get.
10-second trivia. Which of these films won the very first Academy Award for Best Picture in 1929? Wings, All Quiet on the Western Front, Grand Hotel, or It Happened One Night? Though it was called Outstanding Picture back then, the award went to a World War I drama called Wings. In last night's Oscars, the 92nd Academy Awards ceremony, it wasn't just results that the media were watching, it was the ratings. With tens of millions of viewers, the Oscars are one of, if not the most watched show in America that isn't a sports event. But in recent years, the Academy Awards have seen a decline in TV viewership. They hit an all-time low in 2018 with 26.5 million viewers, but they bounced back a bit last year when the show got 29.6 million viewers. One thing unique about last year's show was that it didn't have a host, and the Academy planned to try that again last night. We didn't have final viewership numbers when we put this show together, so we don't know if the hostless approach helped. But other awards shows in 2020, like the Golden Globes and the Grammys, saw lower ratings. Regardless of how that played out, the business of nominating stars, movies, and producers is a big one.
In 1929, studio head Louis B. Mayer handed out the first Academy Awards. There were only 270 guests. The winners had been announced months before, and the whole thing only cost $5 to attend.
We have seen the American motion picture become foremost in all the world.
Fast forward 90 years, and today the Oscars are awarded in a 3,300-seat theater. Tens of millions of people watch the results live, and tickets cost hundreds of dollars. But the biggest difference? Today's movie studios spend millions to convince the Academy that their films deserve to win.
Sometimes the amount of money that a studio will spend when they're campaigning for an Oscar is even more money than the budget of the movie to begin with.
That's Kyle Buchanan. He covers all things Oscars for the New York Times.
If you want to get your movie taken seriously, you've got to spend. You've got to make sure that there are ads out there, that there are events, that people are contextualizing you as an Oscar contender.
And why do studios spend that much cash for an 8.5-pound statuette? For a smaller studio like A24 or Annapurna, the answer is pretty obvious.
They're making movies for, not a big budget a lot of the time, but in order to be seen when the marketplace is choked with these big blockbusters and superhero films, they need that sort of extra headline-making ability that an award season can provide.
But what about a bigger studio, like Warner Brothers or Universal? As we've seen over the past couple decades, box office hits aren't often considered Oscar contenders, and blockbusters don't really need the exposure that a nomination brings. Isn't the money enough of a reward?
The people who work on these movies, by and large, are artists who want to be appreciated as artists by other artists in town. So when they are in contention for an Oscar, it means something deeper. It satisfies them in a way that money can't only.
So it's really about talent acquisition and talent retainment.
Yeah, it's about making sure that people are happy, We see it all the time when a star has had success and then they want to do something more serious. They want to be understood as an artist with something to say.
Is that me?
When Warner Brothers goes all in on an Oscar campaign for Bradley Cooper, or Ben Affleck, or Clint Eastwood, it's not just for bragging rights, or even a box office bump. No, the studio spends that cash to show commitment to its stars, and to keep them coming back for future projects. For example, Hollywood's biggest studio, Disney, is pushing harder and harder for its top blockbusters to be in Oscar contention.
What next?
But the race isn't just between traditional studios anymore. So why does something like Netflix want to win an Oscar? I mean, it's already the talk of Hollywood. It's one of the biggest media companies on the planet. Why does it need the little gold man?
I think Netflix is eager to disrupt any industry it can get its hands on. They've already changed the way that we watch television. Now they want to do the same for movies. Just like any studio, they want to be able to get in the Oscar race so that top-tier auteurs will come to them to make movies instead of the big studios that are out there. If they can penetrate this race, there's really nothing that Netflix can't do. They want to upend the idea of theatrical distribution being the end-all, be-all of seeing a movie. They want to change the way you see a movie. And if they can get Oscar to validate that, then they've gotten almost all the way there.
The Academy is getting younger and more diverse, and its nominees and winners are shifting too.
I think it's good and necessary to recontextualize what we think of as an Oscar contender, because it means that a lot of better movies that have maybe been historically overlooked by this season, but have certainly not been overlooked by audience members, can actually get into the race.
Over the decades, the Academy Awards have become bigger, more expensive, and maybe a bit more inclusive. But in the end, Louis B. Mayer started the awards to flatter stars into working in his movies. And today's studios will spend more than ever to do just the same.
When it comes to this town, when it comes to Hollywood, a lot of people go into the industry, or even before they get into the industry, they've stood in front of that mirror. They've practiced that Oscar speech. It is still the summit of this industry in so many ways, and a lot of people want that to really feel like they've hit the dream that they've always had.
For 10 out of 10, we present to you The Starry Night by Vincent Van, how do you say it? He's one of the most well-known artists in the world, but an audio guide at a new exhibition in London says Van Gogh, and experts say that's wrong. Some say it should be pronounced Van Gogh, some say Van Gogh, some say Van Gogh. This has been a controversy since the artist was alive, and that's reportedly part of the reason why he signed every painting simply Vincent. Who would have thought the controversy would still be Van Goghing so long after he'd Van gone? Some might Van Gogh at the idea, some might get the impressionism that the debate is better discussed on, let's say, a cafe terrace at night. Some will just Van Gogh with what they Van know, and you'll never be able to convince them otherwise. Beechwood sounds like it could have been one of Van Gogh's paintings, but we wrap up today with Beechwood High School in Beechwood, Ohio. Thank you for subscribing and commenting on our YouTube page. For CNN 10, I'm Carl Azu.